for us all a while. You know, I knew that there was something to this story because Star Wars is, at the end of the day,
one of many stories that simply recounts the tale of the fallen, in line with the Sumerian accounts of the Anunnaki. You even have the planet-sized, planet-shaped ship, say that 3 times fast, that you see depicted by the Death Star. So when I heard about Harrison Ford this morning, you know, heard it once, twice, 3 times too many, and I had to wonder myself, now why they keep telling me about Harrison Ford? It's supposed to be a little lightweight crash. At first they said he only had minor scrapes. Then some outlets were saying that he was seriously injured, such as TMZ, of course, the more sensational outlets. But I just noticed the news was hammering this into my mind, and that told me, message, NewsWriter's secret. So okay, what's the symbolism of this story? I forgot to look up the brother name. Brother sent all of us in the Google Plus group some pictures of the plane, and then 2 links. One to chrome yellow, spelled like sitting on chrome, Master Ace, and then the other one, chrome yellow, spelled like Master Aldous Huxley, spelled the title of his book. Chrome Yellow was the first novel by British author Aldous Huxley, published in 1921. You know what else was going on in 1921? The Great Depression was in full effect. But when I looked up Chrome Yellow, both the color and the book, I thought, were keys to this, especially after the brother had pointed in that us in that direction. And I'm gonna find his name and put it in the description, okay, because he should get credited for turning me on to it. Like I say, the spidey senses told me, well, wait a minute, pay attention here, and the Holy Spirit told me what to pay attention to. And then of course the brother gave a clue. But Chrome Yellow, the booklet, not unlike Brave New World, is basically another book in which they hide the New World Order plan and fictionalize it. The characters in Chrome Yellow are interesting characters. One of them includes someone who is deeply enthralled with spiritism. Okay, so I began to look at this, and then some notes came. I'll show you guys some of the notes too, I suppose. I guess we can do that. I guess we can do both. Let's not get too reliant upon technology. Need to get acquainted again with the paper and pen. But Chrome, when I looked at the word, yeah, we gotta see the paper. Let's see if we can get to it. Chrome should be, yeah, see, doing new things. Chrome, there it is. Chrome, okay. Chrome, the metallic surface that you use for the duels. Chrome, the way that Huxley spelled it, was supposed to be a tribute to a fictional place. To a place. I don't recall if it was fictional. Okay, and you need to look just a little bit more into that place too. We'll do that before it's all said and done. But what I saw off rip from Huxley's spelling of it was chrome, fictional deity. Okay, you see the relationships in the words. I can take this down. Chrome, the fictional deity in Conan, based off of the Celtic deity Crom Cruach or Crom Dub. Yeah.
Typically, in the Conan comic books, I used to read them. I was surprised to find out he was supposed to be a Sumerian. The barbarian was Sumerian. Yeah. A good thing for those who like to study and find clues in movies, look back at the Conan movie. You'll see the reptilian or serpentine being symbolism all throughout, and a couple more little surprises. Interesting, James Earl Jones was in that, as well as, of course, played the iconic Darth Vader. And all of that's going to relate by the time we're said and done. But typically the name crome, when used by Conan, was invoked during an oath or curse. He would curse in the name of crome, okay, or say something in the negative. He didn't call on crome for help, because according to the myth or legend behind crome disfavors weakness and doesn't answer prayers. He's grim and unforgiving. Conan has said in exclamation, "Crome and his devils." So who is crome? Then we have yellow. Yellow, sun symbolism. Some people will argue gold, but let's continue. You have the yellow brick road, which led to Emerald City. Both were references to quote-unquote currency. The yellow bricks, gold bricks. Okay, but yellow has occult meaning also. It was reasons why the news writers put emphasis on certain aspects of the story, and oftentimes those aren't the parts of the story that you would naturally be most curious about, or that you would naturally even think of as the most important parts of the story. But you'll keep hearing these words. It would be these keywords, these buzzwords, and then those buzzwords end up trending on the internet and on social media. But I maintain that those buzzwords are keys to the secret code that exists inside of most major news stories. It's one of the reasons why, like, all of the music now is coming from one source. You have Clear Channel, Radio 1, whoever, bossing what the radio stations are playing, where you have the same thing with Associated Press or Scripps bossing what the newscasters are saying. They don't go out there like Jimmy Olsen did on Superman and go find a scoop and go find a story no more. That's a thing of the past. Geraldo, bless his heart, that brother might have been one of the last of those who was out here trying to do that type of thing. Or Maury Povich, and they told him to sit down somewhere and find out who the baby daddy is and be happy. Get this check, but he'll slit this neck. But you know, you get the picture. The news is coming from one source now, okay? And the source is the capstone always. But when you have this monopoly of communication industries, then you have a monopoly of the communication. It's what is exemplified by the antagonists in They Live, John Carpenter's They Live, starring Roddy Piper and Keith David. The antagonists in that movie are alien, quote-unquote, beings, analogists for demon beings, as are reptilians, synonymous with demon beings. But they're also disguised as newscasters, among the other important aspects of society. It's like the news station was their central hub. Can we say that about the movie? I know that movie now. That was my joint. I very thoroughly enjoyed that movie before I realized all the different things that it says, even about the fight between black and white, and how in the end what they end up doing, turn around, look and say, wait a minute, that's what it is. And in a lot of movies you'll have the black man instructing, showing the white man. In this movie, the black man was so concerned about keeping his boat afloat, making them ends meet, okay, and not having his family out there on the street. He did not have the will or ability
to see. He himself had been put asleep. We get put to sleep when I say we, I mean as a society. Society is lulled to sleep by these plans that we find in books by individuals like Aldous Huxley, and others, Orwell and others, who were all doing their part of the great work. Okay, and but it's very necessary to lull everybody into this hypnotic state, just like they did in They Live. And the news plays a major and key part of that, okay? But let's continue. Let's look a little bit more at yellow. And trust me, this is gonna go somewhere mellow. Alright, the esoteric meanings of colors. I already went through these, but just, so you can kind of see something of the pages to yourself. So like that. Okay. The esoteric meaning of yellow, at the end of the day, yellow stood for intellect, computers, communication, audio, video, TV, electronics, books, and literature. This was broadcast today. Yellow also having to do with the power of the air, powers of the air ruled by Mercury, an air sign, the quickness of Mercury taking messages to and fro through the air. Okay, and again, all of these things that are parts of the story that are either fabricated and then blown up out of proportion, or are picked out, from actual reality. I don't know if he really owned an old World War II plane with a 50 on it. I don't know that. I don't know where he was going. I haven't heard that made clear. But he was just flying just to, just get some flight time together, okay. But whether the incident happened organically or not, because first thing I heard this morning was they had just wrapped, after just wrapping Star Wars. So I thought to myself, Star Wars is a big movie. Again, I don't know. But, when movies of that size and proportion, of that epic legend come out, somebody usually have to pay a price of sacrifice. And as of late, as the public has become more and more aware of celebrity sacrifice, I've noticed that we've seen more seniors. I think that's a cover. When we start to discover people getting a real keen sense for this occurrence being common among celebrities. But then if they're up in age, you have the naysayers, the haters, and those who are just really followers of what status quo says, who will jump out and say, of course, well, they were old. Does everyone that passed have to be a sacrifice? Technically, no. But then, like I believe I've said before, if you're playing that game, when it's time for you to go, you're effectively a sacrifice, because you're not going to the Father, lest you repent and have not done the unforgivable. But again, let's look further into it, because I saw more things in the ancient practices that give us Hinduism. You have the overstanding or understanding of the body as being a conductor of energy and a producer, a projector, transmitter of energy. And they say that there are different energy centers of the body. Some are familiar with what they call chakras. And according to their belief system, again, believing in the body, whether it's the body on the outside, the muscles on the outside, or the chakra within, will not allow you to win. Let
Have mercy. You're going to lose with what you use. Don't trust in your body. Don't trust in your mind. Not by might. Not by intellect. Not by strength. All right. So, yeah, it's the solar chakra of will. And again, this is man, do as thou will. Played out in a story, played out in a news story, they're giving a sentence with all these different things. The sentence is basically saying, you know, hey, you know, make way for the fallen one. You know, again, heralding the return of their father, their king. They believe. They believe. Okay. So this entire thing is symbolic. The doctor who discovered Harrison Ford on the golf course in the plane wreck there said he expected a fireball to fall from the sky the way that the plane went down. It wasn't up very high, but high enough, 200 feet. Okay, Harrison Ford crash lands in a WW2 plane at approximately 2:25 on the approach to the 8th. Here's your Saturn symbolism, T, cross, mockery, after taking off from Santa Monica Airport. And of course, he played many roles. He's played the president. But what they kept telling you about over and over and over again, Star Wars and Indiana Jones. Interesting timing considering the new Star Wars 7, which is always used to symbolize, you know, from their point of view. They're not believers, okay? They don't see 7 as completion. They say 7 is, that's it. It's a wrap. It's over. After just wrapping Star Wars, said ABC News, as I listened this morning, who happens to be owned by Disney. ABC News is owned by Disney, and Disney's putting out Star Wars. How coincidental that Han Solo was a pilot. Have mercy. Well, Luke was a pilot too. He could fly too. No. He had the fastest. I'll tell y'all, don't mess with me about no Star Wars. The Millennium Falcon was a souped up hoopty. Okay? And it was awful fast. And him and his mans was hustlers. Well, actually, they call themselves smugglers. All right, Archie Ball. The Star Wars nerds is going to try to battle. But the point is, lots of symbolic meaning in this story, and again, it just simply appears to be another announcement. Why announce it? Why make another announcement? Well, they're constantly announcing it. With when Katy Perry rode in on the beast, like the whore riding in on the back of the beast, you know, they are constantly announcing it, like heralding his coming. They believe. Well, Jack Parsons' Babylon Working was set to end. I told y'all when it began, when the astrological sign change went to Aquarius. All right. Well, it ended into Pisces because it's a mockery again of Christ. Antichrist is not simply the opposite of or against Christ, but it is a mockery of Christ. So he does many things to try to mock what people say or what people believe about Christ. The Apple computer symbol is a mockery because it's something people believe about Scripture, although it's not true to Scripture. There's no mention of the apple in the Adam and Eve story. However, these Satanists, Luciferians, they will even use the things people believe, the symbolism that people stick to because of tradition as opposed to accuracy. They'll even clown on that. They'll clown on that too. Okay, but you know, again, too much for me to be a coincidence. Okay, you know, I looked at the numbers even, and I saw a lot of 8. I saw a lot of 8 action. And shout out to Patriotic Front. He first put me on to the 8 action, and he first put me on to the NewsWriter's secret. He's the man for that. Cause I would watch the news like you know, the average game goofy goober. Okay, I knew they'd be lying because the old folks, the elders, would always say, "Oh, they lying about blah blah blah," but I didn't know the extent. But let's look at this 8 action here. Now, this was supposedly from the report, the conversation between Harrison Ford and air traffic control, which, you know, he said 53178, engine failure, immediate return. Okay, numbers here is awful ill. 53178. Math heads, you see it off rip. You know, what a coincidence. But this is just chock full of 8s. You know, I don't know. And again, they're 8. Yeah, it has to do with Saturn, but I think sometimes people miss out on the forest for the trees, or the obvious for the, you know, for looking for the real supernatural, mystical stuff. The obvious part is 8 is infinity. They believe they're going to rule forever with that fame. 8, 5 and 3. 8, right? 1 and 7. 8, right? It ends with an 8. 53178. Engine failure, immediate return. Air traffic control says Ryan 178 again. You know, I don't know about the way they talk back and forth, but that's the same numbers. That may just be a response to what he said. But again, you see that same 8 again. 1 and 7 is 8 again. The 8. All right, and runway 3 clear to land. Of course, you know, basic air traffic controller talk, but if we're looking for that other language, I'm looking at runway 3 clear to land. You know, the unholy trinity is clear to take its place on the world stage again, as the Babylon working was set to end at 2:27. Excuse me, on February the 27th. Okay, which was 2 weeks after the 13th, which incidentally was a Friday the 13th. And this upcoming Friday, this is March the 6th, 2015, but this upcoming Friday is also a Friday the 13th. We've had months with back-to-back Friday the 13th, and another movie, symbolic in its title and in its celebration of murder of the Brotherhood, and of the significance of the date of the Friday the 13th to them, which was supposed to have been when the Pope gave the edict of the order to take out the Templars, and really when they went underground. So it's like another important day, because they didn't go away. Okay, like the 1st of May. It's an important day for them also. But I'm just saying that to say, we know that something was made manifest. Okay, and it is the will of the Father that Scripture and prophecy is fulfilled. Okay, so some being was made manifest that they were very pressed about making manifest, and that the demons had even said, or the handler, whoever was speaking at the time, had even said a couple of times, you know, we'll have her for a time, but then we have to let her go, or we'll only have to have her for a time. Even your book says it. So I say all of that to say that from the occult side of things, which is how you have to see the NewsWriter's secret, similarly to the songwriter's secret. Okay, from the occult side of things, they've reached a milestone, you know, an important part of the great work has been accomplished. Can we say that from their side of things? And so stories like this are stories to help to celebrate that, to herald it, because the story is saying, you know, again, basically time and time again, saying the fallen one is coming, he is arriving. Okay, and
the 50. You know, that stood out to me, but I couldn't make anything of it other than the usage of 5, and 5 being symbolic of many things, but of the spirit element, the 5th element, the spirit element. And again, we're talking about spiritual things, spiritual talk. The golf course was Pen Mar. Okay, again, Pen, another one of those names. He's got a lot of names. You've heard of Pendragon, Pennsylvania. Well, you talk about John Penn, and that's who Pennsylvania is named after, exoterically. Okay, but Penn is another one of the names. Foe Slewfoot. And Mar, we've talked about Mar before. Mar, M-A-R, as in you can mar up that coffee table if you keep scraping that such and such across it. Okay, to mar is to mess something up, to scratch it up, to tear it up. Okay, and Pen Mar, of course, we've seen other aspects of these type of stories and things where they're bragging on the fact he's not the creator, he is the destroyer. So Pen the destroyer. Again, in the Venice section of LA, Venice is to represent Rome, okay, which is supposed to be the religious throne of the powers that should not be. And certainly that coincides. He will have his business there. This new pope is just as wicked as the old one, who, by the way, in keeping with the Star Wars theme, sure did look like Palpatine. It was easy to see the evil in his face. This one plays it better. It was like a Bush to Obama switch, but on the papal side of things. They switched from somebody who you just knew was up to no good to somebody that can hide it better from those who do not have eyes to see. Because if it were possible, they could deceive the very elect. So if you've been deceived, you know who you're not. Okay, if you stay in deception. And then, of course, Star Wars. We've talked about Star Wars before. We looked at the words before for Star Wars. I'm sorry, that's for the Proverbs reading. That part there. Don't worry about that. But let's look at Star and Wars. Of course, Star Wars has to do with the fallen angels. The angels' war, the war in the heavens. The kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent must take it back by force. This is the Star Wars, the wars in the heavens, the wars between the angelic beings and the demonic beings. And of course, he played Indiana Jones. And Indiana is what they're trying to be. They're trying to take you and me. Indiana, which is the feminine representation of Lucifer, also exemplified by Saturn, feminine representation as well. And Jones, which is from Jonas. That's right, Jonas brothers, Jones girls. The sign of Jonas will be the only sign given. So the last day symbolism is all through here. And I'm going to show you one more story of that. And also watch how the government operatives, the powers that shouldn't be operatives, called ISIS, are going around, and we're told they're going around and destroying religious artifacts. If they represent an anti-Christian faction, now that's what they're to represent. We know that half of them is American. I would bet you know what's going on. Same thing that was going on before. That's agents, our agents. But they're going around because we have a Luciferian satanic government. Look up Michael Aquino. General Michael Aquino. Temple of Set founder. Okay? We have a satanic government. So not only will they hunt down Christians,
Not only are they making laws against believers, they don't care nothing about the rest of y'all believing what you want to believe. But it's us who won't bend and bow to the new age twists and turns and all the newfangled Atlantean theology that they're going to drop on you. You see? But this is where we're at. Okay. They are also destroying artifacts and things that validate the biblical accuracy, the historical accuracy of the Bible. Those things are being destroyed. That's what's being destroyed. And of course, the Luciferian news distributors aren't distributing that to the reporters to report, are they? No, they won't neither. So again, this one story about Harrison Ford, two big boss family names. Huh? Names sound like a president, destined to play one. So he's not a Ford? You mean to tell me like Bush? It's all these random Bushes running around. That NASCAR driver looked like he ought to be at their family reunion every year. The Bush, the NASCAR driver. He looked like a Bush. But I'm telling you, they got to play this game. They act like they not monopolizing everything. Okay? So that would look unfair to the public. Then we would know nepotism on its highest levels was real and what ran things. Not what you know, but who you know. So, episode 7 is called Star Wars. Episode 7. That's what they own. Because remember, this is a continuation of the ones that came out when we was a kid. The last ones that they made with Hayden Christensen and Anakin's story, those were supposed to be in the front of the ones that came out when we was a kid. Okay, when we was kids, okay, that was 4, 5, and 6. Okay, 1, 2, and 3 came out a few years ago. Revenge of the Sith and all of that. Okay, so this is number 7, which would be the end. Because it ain't gonna be about making movies and stuff like that again. Believe it. A lot of stuff they tell you about, well, for the next year this and next year that. I do not believe we're gonna make it to another presidential election that goes down the way they have always gone down. Can I say that? I believe it's going to be unlike it has been before. They may even call it something different. A new name for that office. But I believe you're looking at the last one. That's why they let the last one, as it was in the days of Noah. They let the last one represent who or the hue of the people at that time. And so many reasons. But again, symbolism. The Force Awakens is what the episode is called. Episode 7, The Force Awakens. I know I've used it before, like using the term Spidey sense. We really shouldn't do that, knowing the esoteric connection it is to it. But sometimes we're just speaking because we have certain things in pop culture that we all have in common and can identify with. So, but forgive me, because like the Force, it all talks about a psychic power. Okay, and we don't need that. Okay, we don't use that. Okay, we can't lose what we choose to use. Have mercy. But yeah, the Force Awakens. So it's talking about this psychic power awakening. New Age. New Age is going to turn you out on psychic power and crystals and chakras and meditation and levitation and other Asians.
have mercy. They're going to tell you everything is right if it feel good. Believe it. So that's what this story was all about. Now, if you think that was stretching, let me show you something. Look at this here. This story here is a great example of the NewsWriter's secret. Check it out. Man catches giant catfish. What is a catfish? Brethren, my sisters, my Israelites, it is a abomination. We know that the fallen angels created, can't quite call it creation, they manipulated beings into new and weird looking things, and those became the abominations, the abominable things, scorpions, spiders, lobster, catfish. Okay, and let's look at this. Look at how this story is written. This is the perfect example, and it's from your girl Ariana. Great analytical reporting mind of the Huffington Post. Let's look at this. Did this man, please tell me you can see this. Let me see. Somebody look at this. Let me see. Let me make sure everybody can see this here. Do you see this here? This is the NewsWriter's secret. That's the NewsWriter's secret. Let's go further into it. Of course, you're supposed to laugh. Ha ha ha. Oh, the spawn of Cthulhu. The Cthulhu myth is the reptilian myth. Basically, the serpentine myth, the dogon and Numos retold and fictionalized. Okay? These alien demon beings. Spawn. What was Spawn about? When spawn is used, and of course it's used with aquatic things generally, don't you? But most of the time it's used with negative connotation, like the spawn of the devil. Okay, that's why they called the movie Spawn. Okay, again, interesting racial dynamics in that movie as well too. But let's read the story just to show you we ain't got to make this stuff up. Dig this here. One fish, two fish, red fish. Oh God, what is this? Italian man. You don't want to know his name. Italian man Dino, as in dino. Yabba dabba do. Ferrari reeled in a 280-pound catfish behemoth. Again, symbolism relating to scripture, end times, devils, demons. Okay? In Italy's Po River last week, reminding us all that we are but mere mortals at the mercy of otherworldly demons. I ain't made it up. I'm reading it to you flat from what it say. This is posted February 26, 2015, 3:24 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Huffington Post by Sebastian Murdock. Let's keep going. Yeah. Coinkydinks. Ferrari. Okay, I used to give y'all work. I'm gonna give you some. What do Ferrari mean? What does Ferrari mean? Do I have to look it up right here, right now? Italian man Dino Ferrari reeled in 280-pound catfish behemoth in Italy's Po River. And I'm sure that means something in Italian. I didn't check this story over again. I just remembered it and brought it up because I know I wanted to show it at the end. But these would be things to look at within the NewsWriter's secret that I'm already showing you. in Italy's Po River last week, reminding us all that we are but mere mortals at the mercy of otherworldly demons. Ferrari fought with the beast for 35 minutes. Again, Ferrari fought with the beast for 35 minutes. You saw that's in gold? Can you see that's a different color? Fought with the beast for 35 minutes before Cthulhu and the great old ones. What did Arizona Wilder say that they called the reptilian bosses, the hierarchy? The great old ones, the old ones, deemed our hero worthy enough to pull victory from the murky abyss. Here's video of Ferrari holding the demon, seemingly afraid to move, lest he suffer the wrath of the ancient creature, that old serpent, the dragon. Now that's enough now. That's how it's done. There's your Ashford and Simpson. It seems to hang on for the NewsWriter's secret. Glad to give it to you. Alright, I will be concentrating on the doc for the rest of this weekend, and I'm going to drop little proverbs. But again, it's not always reptilians too that you're seeing when you're seeing demonic manifestations come out in individuals. There's lots of different types of demons. I'll try to tell you, you don't pay me no attention. But for instance, oh yeah, I meant to turn the sound down, all the way down. Okay, for instance, there's one individual from Fox newscasts who does it quite often, and his name is, just coincidentally, Michael Brown Lee. And he does it very, very bad. He does it so bad in some spots that he walks off as if he is conscious that it happens. And I've seen that in more than one clip of him, which is what made me remember his name. I remember his name since 2011. This was something I was looking up around the same time I was looking at the Songwriter's Secret, and I discovered this cat and one more that stayed on my mind. You stay on my mind, and I'm gonna show you him too. Check it out. Okay, now you can check this out on your own. This is a YouTube video. It's on here. Reptilian reporter never seen before. Okay, and his name is Michael Brownlee, and he got something going on. I don't know what's going on with the brother. Perhaps it's a skin condition that we don't know of, and he just starts to turn dark, and these splotches get on his face, look like make him look like he got on an alligator suit zipped up to his head. But you got him, and then you've got this other guy. And I found too, oftentimes what the story's about has to do with it. This one's been up for some time. This is one of the best ones too, and I always remember his name because I always think about toads. But the story, Brian Todd talked about putting microchips on troops, and as Wolf Blitzer pitched him, or perhaps triggered him within the story. And again, seeing the second generation like this doesn't do it justice. But you looked at a reptilian shapeshifter, Brian Todd, CNN reporter. But yeah, they were talking about putting microchips on the troops, and at points in the story that was especially impactful. And I'm not saying that willy-nilly. I think points in the story that anyone would think was like the heavyweight points. It was when you see him make the change. The changes in both his tongue and teeth, and of course in the eyes, which is the most striking change that you see when you're watching what they call reptilian reporters. And you have to keep in mind, sometimes people put a blanket term on something, like when people called all kind of rap gangster rap, and you hate that. Well, we kind of do that sometime with Illuminati, because we don't necessarily know what group it is, which faction of Lucifer's crew, of the Brotherhood of Cain, is doing their thing. So we kind of lump them all in that. Well, that happens with the reptilian reporter thing.
because again, we don't know what type of demon, but we know it's demonic because it is in relation to portions of the story that have high spiritual significance. Can we say that? So it shows you it is a spiritual thing. And and among the archons was this reptilian style demon. So yeah, they're there. But we're probably seeing on one newscast, seeing all type of different individuals from different ethnic backgrounds, some of them not even what you think they are. You're seeing a number of walk-in spirits manifest on them. Some of them have stand-in spirits. They've housed those spirits for so long, they've been good hosts to that spirit. That spirit don't want to go nowhere. They've had such a good host. So watch that. You got something you got to shake. It's been on you for a long time. Right now it's a walk-in. Don't let it get in lay down status. But yes, so you want to look at those things too. And of course, it's not just the reporters that have been caught. Lots of politicians have been caught. Even murder suspects or people convicted of murder have been caught, and CEOs have been caught. That was another good one. So jammed a lot of stuff up there, but this is the introduction to the NewsWriter's secret, which I've seen a lot of people do things on it or break down news stories or whatnot, but I try to do things in a tutorial manner where after I'm through showing you the songwriter's secret, to be effective, I want you to be able to go show somebody else, you know. So I try to show it in that manner. Sometimes that's why it takes more time than other times. People just show you stuff, they don't explain it, they don't break it down. So I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate y'all spending a little while with my style. And of course, as always, I give thanks and praise to the true and living, grand, almighty creator and the Messiah for choosing to use me. So thank you again for dropping in. This is Unplug 'em once again. Shalom.